Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let me get a little set up here. Um, yeah, so we're live right now. Thank you for everybody that's tuning in. Let everybody come in as they, uh, you know, get joining here. Yeah, so today, what we're gonna be going over and some cool stuff today. It's let's see, what's this? Oh yeah, okay. So today we're going to be breaking down a Lil Tecca Type Beat, and before I really get started here, just want to thank everybody for voting. It was a 50-50 tie this time, couple votes to couple votes, one way or the other, and whenever it's a tie like that, I just do whatever, you know, I just do whatever is the most streamed one. So if you like one, you like try to get your friends to vote for me. Vote for the Little Tecca stuff. Vote for the different stuff that you want to see in each of these beats. The main thing that this uh, beat breakdown will go over is how we're gonna make melodic, like Lil Uzi kind of melodies, Lil Tecca kind of melodies, Sofaygo kind of melodies, like the stuff that like you hear in cloud rap. And we're gonna be going over gross beat. Those are the main topics that we'll cover today. Also, always like drums, like how do we make the drum sound a certain kind of way? How do we get that bounce out of stuff? That's the main thing that we're gonna be going over. So yeah, like I said, the voting was close, and one thing about what I'm wearing today, I just want to say, I'm repping my Coach Signetti shirt. So if you're an IU fan or you follow college football, you already know Hoosiers got a big game tomorrow against Ohio State. So it's the first time that in my lifetime, really, that like the Hoosiers have been this good and are threatening to get into the college football playoff. I mean, obviously the COVID year, but you know, this feels like the best chance. So I'm hoping they can pull it out for us on tomorrow. But yeah, enough about what I got going on, what I'm wearing here, let's get right into this breakdown. So, make sure you're voting every week before we get started. Uh, Make sure you're voting every single week because it's decided by like just a voter or two every single time. Every single time it comes down to the wire, everybody's like putting in their votes last minute. It forced a tie at the last minute this morning, so it's one of those things that if you get your vote in, that's how we keep the interaction going. We get the beats that you want to see. Um, yeah. So without further ado, let's get right into this. First thing I'm gonna do is introduce this little Tecca Type beat to you guys. So we'll start it off with that. Hey. Yeah, so that's the beat. Yeah, so that's what the beat sounds like. First thing we're gonna get into is this interesting bell melody. So I think I just drew this one in. So uh this is in B minor. So one like trick that you can kind of do when you're making melodies, you can just have an empty track, right? You can go into your piano roll and then you can click. First of all, I'm gonna like set my scale. So thing that I was talking about last week, we set it to B and we set it to natural Aeolian minor, or you could do it to melodic or harmonic. Those are the most common ones that you're gonna see with your scales, but natural is like typically what you'll see. It's like what you see in your autotune scale. Like if I pulled up an autotune scale right now, right on my mixer track, um, and I switched it to B minor. That's the natural minor. So it's got B, C sharp, and F sharp. So C sharp and F sharp are the only two ones that are raised in this key. The rest are all Oh, wait, we got this and in here. So we go B, C, D, E, F sharp, A, or G, A, B. So yeah, that's the scale, and you can see that's what's in there, and that's what the natural minor scale is going to be. Um, Now back into our piano roll here. So we've got that scale snapped to that. Um, and then we go into here. We check our piano roll. So it's like we're starting from scratch, right? We had no idea that this melody is going to shake out this way. So I'm going to create a stamp. So if you don't know what a stamp is, it's right here, right next to the music note. And then you can put in scales, right? So you can go down to melodic scales, and then you go into natural Aeolian, click on B, and then boom, you've got all these. So we'll drag this out for 8 bars, make sure it's snapped, and then Control C, V, and then you can hit Control or Command up to go up one note in the scale, or like a whole octave in the scale. Control V, shift it back, Control down to get it down in the scale. So now what this is going to do, it's like you got all these notes here. It's like, oh, this looks like these are just all the notes in the scale, right? So now I can see it's all mapped out. I can see, oh, I've got my notes here. I kind of like know what I can play. So when I'm building this out, I now know that I can click which notes. So it's like makes it really, really easy for me to like, oh, okay, I can only be in these notes. I want this to be faster. So, ooh. But like you can see, like I can drag in, like, okay, these are the ones here. And when it's snapped to the scale, when I'm dragging it around, it's only hitting on the ghost notes. You can see that. I can move this around, and it's only going to go to the ghost notes. So when you hit snap scale, and then you already have it in the scale, you already know where you're clicking with these ghost notes. So it's much easier to draw in melodies this way. So if I like wanted to start with like it was a chord like this, and I'm just like I'm creating, you know, my just like an arpeggio, right? The way I would do that is just by like, okay, so I'm gonna go up. So let's say I'm gonna go to the 4 now, go up to B. Like that. So it's just like I've already got like an arpeggio there. That's how I could just like start with a melody. And then like if I wanted to like take notes out or like make different notes, that's like just a simple arpeggio, right? So it's like really, really simple. That's like an easy way to kind of like build like a simple melody. And it's like, it's like not like the easiest, like, oh, it's not like the best melody in the world, but you never know. But like you never know what somebody's gonna do to it. And I mean, you just drawing in the arpeggio that way could kind of help build the rhythm. And with me, that's how I like started with this. I like, okay, I've got my scale. I want to do that. And then like once I like know my scale and I can just take it out, right? But just to review, you can hit the stamp to hit the melodic natural or natural minor Aeolian, and then you drag it in here. And like we said, it's the main scale that all of the natural Aeolian scale is exactly the scale that most autotunes will use. So if you're making like a melodic, like new trap, new wave kind of melody, what you want to do is you really want to like make sure that it can be like auto-tuney and like stuff like that, because that's what most people are going to use it to rap on. they're not gonna like get like a melodic trap beat just to kind of like rap like tough bars. I feel like that's just my feeling. You know, it's not maybe I'm wrong, but I just kind of feel like that's the way. Like especially like whenever I'm like making a beat like this, it's like okay, this is like gonna be like a little Uzi beat based on like how I'm like moving with this. But if I go back to like my other pattern, right? I built it kind of just like off of like the basic, like, okay, I'm going octave, one like half step down, and I'm like keeping in to my scale with the ghost notes, right? Like I'm like making sure like, okay, like clicking in a note here, there. I think that's like the main tip with this. Like you really just want to like, if you're not like trying to go with a specific chord progression, like, okay, well, like maybe I just want to be in this one scale. Like, or maybe I just want to be in this one note range. And that's basically what I was doing for this. It's like I went from BDF to EGB, you know, for my chords. It's not like, okay, so it's like only two chords. But how am I doing that? I'm like making the rhythm way different with the notes that I have. So when I'm playing it together, just the melodies, right? It's not so like okay, like even though it's two chords with the backing, the top line melody is what sells this beat, you know, and with these repetitive chords, it gives the artist like a lot more room. And like, you know, these are stacked chords from like a pad, and I just edited the rhythm for it, so it's like only like a it's 3/4 note, so it's like not doing that, so it gives it that like dun, 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 like in Magnolia from Playboy Cardi. It's kind of got that same kind of vibe, and like I didn't really even edit the velocity because I just drew these in. And you know, I've talked about it a couple of like times throughout the weeks. Something you really want to like pay attention to. If you're not gonna like play this in, it's like I kind of just went, oh, no, no, yeah. So I went, oh, okay, okay, okay. We forget my own melody sometimes. Yeah, okay, okay. But yeah, like basically, I was playing that one in one night, and I know I did that so convincingly too that I played that in. But like for me, like I can play the piano, so like my notes are all like just all over the place with the velocity. But like if you're not good at playing the piano, or if you're not like knowing how to do certain things, that's okay. Most producers like just draw things in anyways because it's easier to than like coming up with something on the fly. Um, and like I showed you with the other one, this pattern, we just drew it in, right? Um, Another way we could fix this, right? We can control all and just hit randomize. And we can like mess with the velocity this way. So it's like this. No, so this. So some of those are kind of like, all right, these are sounding a little bit too distortion-y, right? So let's scale our levels, like reset. This is like right here, so we want to center them up a little bit more, and then like turn down the multiply, and then offset it like that. So now, so now you got yourself a like a simple melody. And that's kind of just one thing you can really do. It's like just okay, I got my ghost notes, I drew this in like literally like what, like 2 minutes, and then I kind of just made it like this. And the next thing I'll kind of like talk about with all of this is like tying it in to the drums now, and like making it like with a cloud melody, you probably want like a pad, and then you want to like get like an arpeggio or like some kind of bell that's doing the thing that I have like right here. Like following this formula is usually pretty good. Like a couple of chords, a couple of fun melodies, and then like just keeping it fun that way. And now we'll go into the drums. So building off of that, I built in the clap. And I was like, okay, let's keep the hi-hat simple. Add a little bit of an open hat, snare, triangle. We got all of that, right? So with this one, the thing that I did that was interesting is like I just kept the bass notes the same. Now, like as I showed you with the chord breakdown that I had, it was like, okay, well, it's B, D, F sharp, B, and then E, G, B. And I just kind of like felt like that note was hitting, like whatever note was on the 808 was hitting and punching through the exact note that I wanted it to be the entire time. And sometimes like your 808s aren't really about like having a complex bass line or something that's really interesting, but like sometimes it's just about having that bass be there and like having everything else like let the artist like make their own kind of flow with it. Sometimes you don't need the 808s to be all over the place. In music, like you obviously like you usually want to follow like the simple rules of like, oh, let's like make things interesting this way or the other, but I just kind of feel like you don't need to like play by the rules all the time, you know? uh yeah, and with you know with making these drums, right? So if we're like having them on the pattern, typically like what I do is like with my claps, I just put it on the like white or the gray every single time. Not much going on with that. Making sure the envelope's like that just to keep the noise right. Cut itself on each one of these drums. That's pretty important, and like making sure like if you're gonna like do the envelope this way, it like helps with the clashing of the noises as well as the EQ. Like I've talked about in previous weeks, and you know, since I'm bringing it up, just to like with your EQ, just taking it from one side to the other, like making sure that the noise is not interfering with any of the other noises and like or interfering with the core noise of it, and just carving out like a space for the noise to rest. That's basically what you want to do, and you want to boost some of those like important sounds that you like in it, right? um but we'll get into the mixing a little bit later. The next core thing with all of this is I'm going to break down the gross beat. So I want to spend some time talking about gross beat. So if you like heard in this beat the first time, as it transitions into the next phase, our happy, bright melody becomes a dark little thing. So with gross beat, you just drag it in, and then usually like what you want to do to like make it halftime is you want to play around with it like this. So like you typically, if I was making a new gross beat, right, I would drag in, if I'm like gonna make it halftime, just switch it to single curve. I switch my snap to quarter because it's easier to get down to 2 that way, making sure it's on beat. Right, but that didn't quite sound right for the sound we're kind of going for in this one, you know? So I was like, okay, well, what does it sound like if I do this and like reset the halftime for each step? That sounds like a little bit better, right? So with the whole thing with gross beat is that you get to be as creative as you want with gross beat. Um, there's like, I mean, you could like go from like the chaos sound. That's a little bit too complex for me, but Like there's all these crazy sounds in this, right? Sometimes it can be simple, and then like one of my like little secret sauce things with gross beat is I like to do this, so like have that be there and do this. And what this does, when you put it on the two from like a quarter of a beat, it makes it give it a reverse sound. So like that's like one of my like little favorite pieces with my gross beat. It's like, okay, so I have the halftime one, and then I like doing this just because it like gives it like a very unique flair. And everybody comes up with their own gross beat stuff. Like so I think like I have like this Nick Mira one, right? Like he's got like all of these interesting ones, right? So he's got the Uzi lead right here. My point being is just like there's a lot you can kind of do with gross beat. You can really hone in to like making it sound crazy. Oh, this is a nuts sound, or like you can make it sound nuts like that, or you can go back to the one that I had, right? Back to the default, or let's delete it, make it easier. Uh, go back to like the default settings that we had, and then just do this. And now there's also other things you can do with gross beat, like you can like edit not just the time and how you like mess with the like entire pitch. Um, you can edit like gating with the volume, right? Now, not all of those are like my favorite, but like it is there. So like you can do side chaining without side chaining, you know? So that's kind of fun. Yeah, there's just all kinds of techniques with this that you can really use. I kind of like going a little maybe too in depth with like how many like features there are, but another secret sauce thing with this is like if you're like having a hard time, instead of like so like a lot of times like what I'll do is I'll have a doubler, right? With when I'm like I think I just talked about it last week with my guitar, right? It sounded really thin, so I added a doubler effect to it. You can get that same effect because what it does, right? Usually when you're using a doubler, you're putting in the high tones and then having like a lower pitch into it, and you're like fading that down. Well, you have your darker pitch right here, and what can you do? You fade it down about 50%, and listen to this. Makes it sound fuller than just the typical sound we had before. So it's giving that high pitch still there. It's got your core structure, but it's adding bass notes and adding like notes that like weren't there previously. And that's kind of nice because it's like getting a nice counter melody without having to create another counter melody. So these are like kind of like some melody tricks that you can do with gross beat, and I think that's just kind of pretty interesting. Um, Now continuing on with the video. Oh, actually, one more thing I want to talk about with gross beat. So if you hit this dot right here, this little triangle, you can do HQ, high quality resampling, remove the offset, smooth the attack compression, and put on the click reduction on high. Now this won't like so like in a lot of times like what you'll see in like certain things like you'll get like a little click sound if you're doing something crazy at the top of it, and you'll get like you get a click sound here, there, everywhere, and it's really annoying to deal with. I mean, you can EQ it out, but it'll still pop in the zones. That click reduction is not perfect. I'll be the first to tell you that. But if you put it on for high for like melodies, it really can kind of like help. Just kind of an example, of like where it clicks, but that gets rid of some of the clicking when it's like transferring to a different pitch. Um, but yeah, that's that. I talked about the drums, talked about that. Let's get into song structure. So this one is pretty simple. Uh, So we got an 8-bar little first melody intro introducing you to the beat. Then we go into like an 8-bar build-up. So it's a 16-bar intro to a 16-bar hook with an 8-bar change phrase here with the triangles, right? And then we go into the verse, which I put in gross beat. And I've talked about this in many, many other videos. If you're using gross beat, you can really make it nice to make it sound like the beat's changed completely. Like, oh, it flipped over into this new thing. Metro Boomin does this a lot. I think probably many producers do this a lot. You just turn on and you automate it with an automation track. So I'll show you how to do that too. So you can instead of like doing this to automate it, like you don't want to automate the button. You want to automate the volume because if you automate the on off, and I've talked about this before, if you automate the on and the off with this, so I'll go in here. So I'll give the example, right? So it goes from on to, or off to on. Gives it like a little clicky pop sound. So that, you hear that click. Now if I take that out, okay, just leave it on the whole time instead. So it's been on the whole time and it just fades it in as opposed to like not having it at all. And now we'll get rid of this automation clip. So you want to fade in the automation. So you right click, create automation clip, and then you just draw it in all the way up, however, like how often you want it. Yeah, and then so like with the verse, 8-bar or 24-bar verse with the like last little bit of cutoff leading into the hook. Then we do an 8-bar outro with a little bit like more of a fade out here. And yeah, that's the song structure. Going into the mix, once again, I've talked about a little bit of the stuff here. So we had our gross beat and our EQ, just taking out the noise. Then we have like our leveling, our clap, same thing here. We take off the low to the mid, raise our low and our mid right where we want it. I'll go into here, kind of just play through it. So without the EQ on, kind of forces it into its frequency range. Our clap, raising the thicker noises and making it really punch. Our hi-hat, lowering both of those noises, like I said, and then raising the noise I like the best. Snare, same thing. Now the 808 was interesting. Rolled off some of the like higher sub noises, put this in here, put down the treble, and now I added not just soft clipper, but saturation knob. So when the light's barely turning on, soft tube plugin, you can get it. It's a really nice one, I think, for getting that saturation effect. Now this one just forced it into its own zone, raised the noise I liked on it. Kick, put some soft clipper on it just to make it punch after like making it hit at the 130 range. Crash, you know, just same little roll off, put it in the mid, put it in the treble. For the raise parts, triangle, putting it in the zone that I think gave it the most ting, and then raising that. And you know, one thing I also did with this is like, so mono separation, it was forcing it to one side of my ear and I didn't like that, so I put it together as like I turned up the mono knob just a little bit, so it made it the stereo separation a lot less, and so it's forcing it to be a mono track, and then I'm pushing it to the part of the ear that I like by doing that. So that's the mixing. Yeah, I think that's all I had. Okay. So that is the beat, guys. It is a melodic trap beat. It is pretty good, I feel like. Yeah, I think the main things we covered gross beat, a lot of gross beat today. We covered how to like make the melodies just by drawing it in and not keeping things too complicated. We kind of like went over what the chord progression is, kind of just like figured it out from there. And we broke down a little bit of the drums. It wasn't like a complicated drum set, just hitting the drums at the particular parts that I like. If you want me to go more in depth in the drums, just leave a comment on the video, and I'm glad to tell you, like, hey, this is what I did and why I did it. Um, but I really wanted to use my like kind of like 30-minute time slot here just to talk about what the melodies are, how to do gross beat. I feel like these were the kind of skills we haven't really touched on while I've been like making these videos. And make sure you leave a like, subscribe to me, hit that noti bell, and leave some comments down below for your boy. All right. Kind of need you guys to help carry this channel to the next level. Got some new viewers in here, so I'm really grateful for all of you guys. But that's what I got for you today. Peace, God bless, and go Hoosiers, baby. That's what it's all about.